Good morning, everyone. I will try to be very brief. So DG Energy has already provided a very helpful overview of the policy and the legislative framework on energy poverty, so I'm grateful I will not need to go into that, and I will just dive into the actual topic this morning. The challenge. So although there is a lack of a common European definition of energy poverty, and there are difficulties in identifying exactly who the energy poor households are, estimates suggest that there are around 50 million Europeans suffering from some form of energy poverty. And at the root of the problem, we find low incomes and poor thermal insulation of the building stock. The idea, therefore, at the heart of this topic is that efficiency measures at the household level and the increased use of renewable energies can be very effective tools in addressing energy poverty. This is a coordination and support action as the topic EC1, which carries with it 100% funding rate. What we would expect the proposals to have as a budget for the EU contribution is between 1 and 2 million. However, this is not set in stone. Of course, this depends on the activities that you're actually proposing, so it can be below 1 million, it can be above 2 million. What I would like to mention here is that this topic was already open in 2018. It's currently open for the year 2019, but of course here I'm talking about the call that will be open for 2020, and that will be closing on the 10th of September of 2020. I also want to mention that the call text actually offers a very general description of what we mean by energy poverty in the context of this topic. This is, again, not set in stone, but it's just to give you an idea of what we mean when you read the topic text, what we're talking about. And as my colleague mentioned, we will have a shared 12 million euros for this topic together with the topic EC1. In terms of scope, now regardless of which subtopic the proposal will tackle, and I will come back to I will talk about the subtopics in a moment, all the proposals should address three things. They should contribute to actively alleviating energy poverty. So again, this means doing something actively. This is not mere awareness raising, and this is not academic research. This is not desk research. So it's really activities on the ground. Secondly, they should help develop a better understanding of the types and needs of energy poor households and how to identify them. And here again, the idea is really that you draw lessons and results from your projects or from the project and proposal to improve the understanding. So again, not a desk research. The idea is not that you create just a typology, but that this complements the active alleviation of energy poverty. And thirdly, that you build on the existing initiatives, such as the EU Energy Poverty Observatory that Margot already presented earlier this morning, which is a very important source of information. We very much suggest that you look at it and you build on it, but it's by far not the only initiative that's relevant in this topic. So please have a look at all the things that are out there and build on those and demonstrate in the proposal how you have done this. The topic has three subtopics, so the proposed action should cover one or more of these. You do not need to cover all of them. You can choose to do so, but this is up to you, depending on what makes sense in your specific action that you are proposing. The first one is to facilitate behavior change and implementation of low-cost energy efficiency measures tailored for those energy poor households that you are specifically targeting. This can take the form of providing energy advice or information. It can also take the form of energy efficiency services, such as draught-proofing, or it can include energy efficiency, small-scale energy efficiency kits and devices on low-energy lighting, for instance. The second subtopic is on supporting the setup of financial and non-financial support schemes for energy efficiency and/or small-scale renewable energy investments for these households. Again, this can range from tackling low-cost measures all the way to retrofitting measures. So this is really up to you to see what type of support schemes you are looking at. What's important to mention under this subtopic is that these activities should really add value and complement the activities of the local, regional, and national authorities and their networks, such as the Covenant of Mayors. So the idea here and the aim is to ensure the sustainability of the action beyond the end of the project and to ensure that there could be a potential for larger scale uptake later on. And thirdly, in light of the points made by Margot in her presentation on the revised Energy Efficiency Directive, and specifically in relation to Article 7, the third subtopic is on developing, testing, and disseminating innovative schemes for energy efficiency and renewable energy investments that are established by utilities or other obligated parties under Article 7. So the idea, because this is a coordination and support action, is that you demonstrate the different approaches and you find different approaches to engage energy poor consumers under this article. And obviously there are very many different ways to do it. This is for you to decide how you would demonstrate this. In terms of impacts, the proposals under this topic are expected to demonstrate 5 different impacts as relevant, and I really need to emphasize this because obviously depending on the subtopic or the bullet point that you are addressing, some of these might be more relevant than others. So it depends on the action that you're proposing. What's very important is that you quantify your impacts well, and that if you do not quantify them, you explain and justify in the proposal why you haven't done so. In many cases, for instance, quantifying the primary energy savings should be possible in one way or another in your proposal. So if you do decide not to do so, you would need to clearly explain this in the proposal so it's also clear for the expert evaluators. Due to the target group, to the specific target group of energy poor households and consumers, we understand that very high energy savings may not be possible, but we do expect you to put forward ambitious and credible figures within the context of this target group, within the context of this topic. So again, it depends on what you're proposing. And again, in particular for this topic, there are additional positive impacts and effects that you could be considering and that might be relevant, such as impacts on health, on indoor air quality. So again, think about these and put those forward in the proposal, demonstrating how they are relevant and how you will quantify and report them. And a final point I want to make with this, with regard to impacts, is with regard to the involvement of at least 5,000 consumers. Firstly, this is really focusing on energy poor consumers specifically. So we're not talking about consumers in general. The 5,000 refers to energy poor consumers. And secondly, this is again talking about tangible involvement, so not awareness raising in the broader sense. So as already mentioned also by my colleague on EC1 topic, there are of course many past and ongoing projects, especially for this topic, that we have had for quite a while. There are projects under the former Intelligent Energy Europe program, as well as currently under Horizon 2020. These have developed many useful tools and analyses that can really help you and that you would need to have a look at to understand what's already out there and how you're going beyond that. There are also 3 new projects that are starting this year that you can find on the CODIS database with the link here on the slide. They are called STEP, EmpowerMed, and Social Watt, in case you want to look for those. And then I'm coming to my final points, really just to emphasize, based on the previous projects and the previous proposals that we have seen, some of the key points and the lessons learned. The first one, as I mentioned, is really the focus on energy poor households. And what this means is that the benefits of the activities that you're proposing are accruing to those households. Again, coming back to the issue of the active alleviation. Secondly, not to replicate the previous actions. Again, especially in this topic, there in the recent years have been many new initiatives, new networks, new projects. So it is important that you look at what's already going on and what has recently been established and how your project or proposal would be different and take things to the next level, basically. Demonstrating and considering European added value, as with the previous presentation, think about if there's potential replication across borders, across regions in Europe, and how you would do that. And importantly for this topic is to demonstrate how you intend to identify and have access to the energy poor households. As mentioned in the beginning, this is not always easy. So what you would need to think about is really think about this already from the proposal stage. Think about how you would gain access to those households? What are the avenues you will use? Are there potential intermediaries that are in your consortium or that are supporting your action? And outline all of this in the proposal to give credibility to the approach that you're putting forward. In terms of impacts, as mentioned, this is really crucial that you substantiate the energy savings that you foresee, but of course not only the energy impacts, but this goes across all impacts in general. For energy specifically, it's important that you mention really the clear baselines, assumptions, and the calculations, and you put those forward, because often it might be clear to you as you're preparing the proposal, but actually then when you're reading it, the expert evaluators might need more details on how you got from A to B. And of course also here demonstrate a clear link to the activities. So how will the task that you're presenting in your work plan actually link and result in the impacts that you're proposing? There should be a clear link. It should be clear to the evaluators how you go from the work plan to the impacts. And finally, of course, please check the frequently asked questions. These will be published later on. They might be slightly different from the ones for the topic 2019. So don't just look at the 2019 ones, but do also go back to or look at the 2020 ones once they're published. There might be updates and more further information that you might find helpful. And I think I will end with that. Thank you.